Hi! RenderBuddy is my Reaper tool for extremely fast, context-sensitive sound effects rendering without the need of any previous region or marker preparation. I've just released a 2.0 update, which is so expansive that I figured a dedicated video is in order. Spoiler: we now have a manager for rapidly rendering even large projects. Let's start off by quickly going over what RenderBuddy does. At the core, it automatically detects sound variations and renders them, all without the need of previously setting up markers or regions, and all while using the default Reaper rendering interface. For example, I can simply select this folder, click the RenderBuddy icon, and RenderBuddy will automatically detect the sound variations based on a customizable gap detection. Because RenderBuddy is a hybrid between track and region-based rendering, we can actually use wildcards usually unavailable when doing region-based rendering, such as folders. Once we enter the render pattern, we can save it and RenderBuddy will automatically preview the substitution. Once we click the render pattern field again, it changes back to showing the actual wildcards. And when RenderBuddy is done rendering, no trace of it remains in the project. Another neat thing are NameSwitches. Let's say we have multiple sounds with their own variations in the same track. We can simply use the Create NameSwitch action and give it the name we want the sound to have. When RenderBuddy encounters the NameSwitch, it will automatically rename the files, or better, regions, and restart the numbering. Each NameSwitch region also gets its own color to visually differentiate them, and the render info window will show how many files of each name will be rendered. Naturally, RenderBuddy is also capable of rendering multiple folders. To do so, we can make sure no items are selected, then select the folders we want to render and simply click the RenderBuddy icon. The render info window will now list all folders and the files which are going to be rendered in sequence. Which brings us to RenderBuddy's context sensitivity. If absolutely nothing is selected, RenderBuddy will consider the whole project. If items are selected, RenderBuddy will detect sound variations based on the item selection. It doesn't matter whether they are in the same folder or not. If no items but tracks are selected, it will render based on the track selection. Alternatively, it will only render based on the time selection. If a folder is selected, it will render based on the folder's content, and if multiple folders are selected, it will render each folder in sequence, as shown before. A complaint with version 1 was that most people only really used the track and folder-based rendering, meaning they had to constantly manually unselect all items. Fret not! You can now use the settings to make RenderBuddy always render in track mode, ignoring the item selection completely. And speaking of settings, they got a complete facelift too. Aside from that, setting the various modifier shortcuts can now easily be done by simply using the keyboard. You can restore the default values and even select different menu styles, which will be applied to all other RenderBuddy GUI elements. One of the biggest additions in version 2.0 is the new RenderBuddy Manager. At the core, it will allow you to comfortably use RenderBuddy even in larger projects. Simply select the folders you want to show up in the manager and click on Add Selected Folders. The folders will automatically report all their render regions based on NameSwitches, as well as how many files each one will render to. You can also modify both the folder as well as NameSwitch names directly from within the manager. To render, simply check the render checkbox of whatever tracks you want to render and click Render. The regular RenderBuddy rendering process will start. Another neat feature for larger projects is groups. Groups will allow you to save and recall the current render selection state of folders, complete with renaming, overwriting, and deleting them. All manager-related data is stored inside the project itself, so there is no need to worry about external files. There is still a bit more to RenderBuddy, but I don't want to drag this out for too long. Also, RenderBuddy comes with a user guide detailing pretty much everything. RenderBuddy is the result of months upon months of bringing my personal, ideal render tool to life, and I hope it will help you save time and have a more comfortable workflow as well. So, thanks, and have a good one.